Hey, good morning, good morning. So we've discussed in the past about Trump's rhetoric, his era and what all this represents. And Glenn Kirshner on YouTube, he was a DA or something. I've been kind of chilled out last couple of weeks. Like normally, when I do videos, I'm on the cutting edge because I'm out there. And then people catch up later on, secret report and all, secret report and all that stuff. I'm like them, so I've been chilling out. So Glenn Kirshner was talking about Trump getting rid of the diversity programs and making a big deal about it. And it hit me for some reason. It really hit me that what Trump represents isn't even so much racism. I'm trying to understand what I'm saying clearly. It isn't even so much racism. What Trump represents is the boomers being able to live their lives the way they've been living it. And that we're not going to do about climate change. We're going to destroy as much government as possible. We're going to create as much infrastructure to make money as possible. And I said it like the conservatives seem to have had a shift to where now it's not even like, well, climate change don't exist. It's like, oh, well, if it is, it isn't that bad. What did Trump say in California? It will cool down. Yeah. Like, that's the new policy of Republicans. It isn't even climate change denial as much as it is just we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to deal with it. And which we always knew was the case, that so much of climate change denial is not based upon science or reason or they got a better idea. It's just about, we're not going to talk about it. We're going to deny it. We don't believe it. I'm not. I like to compare it to if my father was a famous drug dealer or a kingpin or something, went to prison, and people were trying to tell me the money he left me was dirty, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to believe it. That's, to me, what conservatives are. It's denial. As society's been built, and they're now at the, like, they're not the Republicans knew about climate change back in the day. This isn't the first time someone started talking about it in the last 20, 30 years. But it's like, now they are the descendants of the crackers back in the day. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, his daughter is really, really radical into that black shit. And I was telling her, I'm like, they can take down the Confederate flags. They can take down the statues, all that shit. Then what will you do? Then they'll say, see, there's no racism anymore, right? Show me the racism. What will you do on that day? What will you do? Because you don't have a context of systematic racism. You don't have a context of these other things that our society is built around. You don't have that. And so you're not going to understand. You're going to get confused, and they're going to get you. They're going to trick you. What, you know what I mean? Basically, like, the war is over, the struggle is over. Where is the racism? And it's not. No. That ain't where the battlefield's at, dude. The battlefield isn't fighting over statues and Confederate flags. And I'm very serious about that. I'm very serious about that. Yeah, this battlefield is about much more than that. Much more than that. Now, moving on. To me, so much of what you see now. Oh, you got back. So much of what you see now is, like I said, it's not based upon factual information. It really is this idea. Like I said, it's playing to the boomers. That's why he denies climate change. That's why he says he wouldn't sit there with the wildfire discussion. He wouldn't have no talk about that in Amazon. This is why, he talks about go back to where you come from, which is an old Klan That's an old Klan state. It's why he talks about when there be looting, there'll be shooting. This is why he, like I said, the diversities. I believe if Trump could go back, Trump would have destroyed affirmative action. I believe that. I want to be clear. I want y'all to understand the context of what I'm talking about. This isn't just about, a little bit of old redneck racism. This isn't about just him being out of touch with reality. This is about him playing up to a base of angry white people who have looked at NAFTA, have seen their jobs go away to good jobs, and are angry and are frustrated. And Trump is like, hey, I got you. There's a guy the guy that put out the ban of the diversity training. When he was confirmed, he actually was saying like he didn't like Muslims, that Muslims are they've turned away from God and all this. I'm like, wow. And this goes back, even forget about Trump. That whole idea I just gave you goes back to the idea that this is a country for white men. This is a nation for white men. Other people, you need to go sit down in the corner and shut up. We run this, and we're in control. What did Trump tell you? Those aren't my voters. That's what he said. He said it, not me. Those aren't my voters. Seeing that guy say that in front of the Senate, and I said, once again, the thing about Trump's people is that so much of this stuff, it isn't even secret. This is public information, public record. That bothers me. It bothers me that it's so easy for me to find this stuff. It bothers me that I'm not even having to dig for this stuff. I'm not even having to look for this stuff. It's just like, boom. Did you hear he said this? No, I didn't. Wow. So to me, this represents the end of the empire. It's the end of the empire. The nationalism, the racism, the viciousness. This is just like Trump playing up, doing speeches talking about dishwashers and water-saving toilets. This is for the boomers. This isn't for me. This isn't for people who grew up with that type of stuff, who have learned to accept it. This is for a bunch of white people who feel like this is our country and we've lost touch with it. That's what this is for. It's so simple. It's easy to see. It's not complicated. Whereas I think Bernie Sanders would have kind of put he would have took the empire and fed it some soup and read it a bedtime story and put it to sleep. Trump is going to start a world war. I'm looking at, I don't know, I remember reading about how they were talking about war with China and stuff, and the Marine Corps getting rid of their tanks and law enforcement stuff. I remember thinking about that. Well, not thinking about it when I heard it. And now I'm like the last couple of weeks, I'm like, yo, this is demented. And then I have rednecks on here talking about he's ended the war in Iraq. Yeah, but this isn't like the end of World War II. He's sending them somewhere else. This isn't the end of Middle East conflict. This isn't anywhere near the end of it. I think the killing of General Soleimani will somewhat signal the end of this Middle East stuff. I think in time we'll see that. Yeah, I think in time that's what we'll acknowledge. His killing will lead to something a lot more dangerous. I think it represents an America gone wild, an America that is completely devoid of any kind of long-term philosophical stances, any type of long-term anything, philosophy whatsoever. I think it represents an America. It's in a very dangerous place, morally, intellectually, everything. Just a very dangerous. If you disagree with us, we'll kill you. That Washington Post guy that got cut up, we're okay with it. It's all of it. This is a very dangerous, immoral America. It's just unleashed. It's the kind of America that brought you Abu Ghraib. Oh, and what did Trump do? Trump brought the CIA woman who was involved in the torturing and stuff and made her director of the CIA. I said something a while back. I'm gonna end it on this. I said that Trump. Hold on a second. I said that when Trump first got elected, we called it General's Cabinet. And a lot of progressives worried about it, and now they're all gone. They've all said Trump is a dumbass. Tillerson from Exxon. Mattis is like, he's crazy. His mom was like, how can you work for someone like that? Yeah. Mad Dog Mattis. And I said that eventually him firing all these people, he would get a crowd of fanatics. I'm sad to say, I was right. I was right. We've got a crowd of fanatics. This guy talking about Muslims, Jared Kushner, all this crazy stuff he did. It's the dude lady just left. I forgot her name. Violating the Hatch Act all the time. Roger Stone, his ass. It's just a presidency of supervillains. And it's a little bit shocking that so many people like this. So many folks really like this type of vicious and violent politics that is really dangerous. We're in a really dangerous place right now in this country. Really, really dangerous. Really dangerous. And I recognize that this country does not have any. I realize a lot of what Trump is talking about, he has nothing for young people. Whether Trump wins or he loses, I think that he doesn't represent the future. He doesn't. Ben Shapiro, Bill Wanoka, conservative guy, he said they stick down the Confederate statues. He said, yeah, they were really bad guys. Take it all down. Ben Shapiro, I listened to him the other day, actually said that he believes that the George Floyd murderer, Derek Chauvin, should be punished. He said this. And I always come from this perspective of, would Republicans and Democrats have said this 20 years ago? Would Democrats come out and kneel in Kente Cloth 20 years ago? No. They wouldn't have. 20, 30 years ago, they wouldn't have. They would have went with the police. They would have said, they just go knock some sense in them. That's what happened. They would not have been open to any discourse with black people, period. And that kind of shocked me. It's like the white folks protesting. It kind of shocked me that same thing with Ben Shapiro. I think that the world is changing. I think that you're dealing with a young people now it's about white people, who are willing to come to the table, who are willing to acknowledge privilege. I've said before, I'm humbled. I am deep. Honestly, guys, as much corruption and shit we see that goes on, seeing those white folks go out there and get their asses whooped, that humbled me. And I told everybody, I want to be a better man. I'm not asking for no white man to kneel to me. I'm not asking for no white man to apologize to me. I'm not asking for nothing. I'm not asking for nothing from you, white man. Nothing. But it is really humbling to me to see that they understand that a crime has been committed and that once again law enforcement is closing ranks. That it's humbling that they're able to recognize it. This isn't just talk. This isn't just rhetoric. Like, we get it. This is wrong. Let's put our boots on and go on. Like, wow, really? I work for, like I told Chance, I work for a living. I can't miss a week out of work. I'm talking about like them going to jail and sitting in jail for 8 hours, and I can't do that. Maybe a week, but I can't do that right now. I can't take days off like that. And that white people with their privilege can do. See, that's why, one thing about white police on Cedar Post, they hate that. They hate to hear or see about white protests. They hate that. And I'm kind of like, why? And I realize now, because white people vote. white folks participate in the political system. They do. White will serve on the juries. They want to serve on the juries. White folks want to do all this stuff. Black folks don't. We don't do that. We don't want to do that. Also, black people, like me, working class, as much as they talk about us being criminals and felons, a lot of us are living on a shaky situation. We can't get involved in the system. We can't go active duty and get out there in the streets because we'll lose everything. And for a white person with privilege to say, nah, you know what? I'll take that ass whooping because I can afford it. If I have to sit in jail for 8 hours, 9 hours, that's fine. I can eat that bail. Not all of them, but some of them can. That is really, that touched me, man. That touched me. You know, as Sam Cedar says, white folks have gotten better. But once again, this is also about the fact that white people are under the oppressor's boot too. Because the system of white supremacy isn't about race. The system of white supremacy is about class, about what you got. I compare it to a guard dog, and that guard dog's got to be fed and maintained. You can't let that guard dog loose. It's got to be controlled, and it's dangerous. It's meant to be dangerous. You know what I mean? It's a dangerous thing. Anyway, I think Trump is also an era of the people not having control over society. I want to end with this. I'll add this in here somewhere. As much as Trump talks about the race, and, you know, not the race, but, you know, like downplaying the pandemic and all that stupid shit he does, there's a disconnect about who runs the society and who has control over the society, and corporations having so much ultimate control over things, and Trump really deregulating just about everything. I think that's the other part people don't see, is just that, yeah, corporations run this world. There was books written about that back in the days, sci-fi, talking about corporations have more power than governments and stuff. We're there. We're not running around in flying cars and stuff, you know what I'm talking about, but we're definitely there in a society in which we have very little control over our politics. Yeah, every so often you get an AOC, you get a Bernie Sanders, you get a what's his name, Talib and Omar, and they have a lesbian Native American woman. Every so often you get those kind of things, but for the most part, these folks are bought and sold, you know. Lobbyists have it all lock, stock, and barrel. And I think it just took Trump to really remind you of that you're an American, but that just means you live here. You just live here. You don't have any control over shit. You know, you got some money in the bank. You don't mean anything.